Right now, as you're watching this, roughly 150,000 people are dying somewhere on the planet. That number is going to hit again in the next hour, and the hour after that, every hour, every day, for the rest of your life. Islam says one entity is handling all of it, the Angel of Death, Malak al-Maut, named in the Quran in Surah As-Sajdah, verse 11, assigned by Allah to take every single soul at the exact moment it is due, without missing one and without arriving late. To a three-dimensional mind, this sounds impossible, and it should, because in a three-dimensional universe, it is impossible. A single being cannot be in New York, Jakarta, Buenos Aires, and a village in the Congo at the same millisecond, taking 4 different souls with full attention to each. But here is what most Muslims never realise, and what modern physics accidentally clarifies. The impossibility is only impossible inside 3 dimensions. Add 1 more dimension and the whole picture flips. Add 2 more and it becomes trivial. Stay with me, because by the end of this video you will understand exactly why Ibn al-Qayyim, a Muslim scholar in the 14th century, described the entire world as sitting in front of the Angel of Death like a bowl in front of a man reaching into it. That description, dismissed for centuries as poetic, matches something specific in modern geometry that no one had a name for until the 20th century. Start with what the tradition actually says. The Prophet, peace be upon him, described the Angel of Death not as one being running from place to place, but as a being whose presence spans creation. Some scholars, including Ibn Kathir, mention that the Angel of Death has assistants, angels under his command, who assist in the process. Others emphasized that the soul reaching the throat, described in Surah Al-Waqiyah, verse 83, happens in every death, everywhere, simultaneously. None of the classical scholars had the vocabulary to explain the geometry of that claim. They didn't need to. They accepted it as a matter of faith. But the geometry exists, and modern physics has been building toward it for a century. Here is the picture. Imagine a 2-dimensional being, flat, living on the surface of a piece of paper. To this being, the entire world is length and width. Nothing else exists in his perception. Now imagine you, a 3-dimensional being, hold a pencil above his paper. From his flat perspective, the pencil doesn't exist until the tip touches the paper. Then, a single point appears from nowhere. You move the pencil. From his perspective, that point moves, but you, from above, see the entire paper at once. Every corner of his world, every location, simultaneously. You are not fast, you are not magic, you are simply not confined to his dimensions. The whole of his world sits, from your vantage point, in front of you, like a bowl, ready to be reached into at any point. That is not a metaphor for the Angel of Death. That is a mathematical description of what it means to operate from a higher spatial dimension into a lower one. Modern physics didn't invent this idea to defend religion. String theory, developed independently at institutions like Princeton and Stanford, requires 10 or 11 dimensions to work mathematically. Physicists like Lisa Randall at Harvard have proposed models where our 3-dimensional universe is a slice, a membrane, floating inside a higher dimensional space that surrounds it entirely. From that higher space, every point of our universe is accessible at once, without travel, without delay. The Angel of Death, if he operates from that higher dimensional space, is not moving from Jakarta to Buenos Aires. He is already at both. He is at every point on Earth simultaneously, the way you are simultaneously at every corner of that 2-dimensional being's paper. Ibn al-Qayyim wrote his description more than 6 centuries before any physicist could sketch that geometry on a chalkboard. He didn't have the math, he had the tradition, and the tradition described the same shape of reality that modern physics is quietly, slowly uncovering. Now here is the deeper implication most Muslims never think about. If higher dimensions are how the unseen world can affect the seen world without violating any physical law, then almost every claim in Islam about angels, jinn, the soul leaving the body, and the barzakh stops being magical thinking. It starts being consistent with a specific class of geometries that physics itself has been forced to consider. The soul leaving the throat, described in Surah Al-Waqi'ah. The angels present at every death, the moment of death being witnessed by beings the family cannot see. These are not violations of physics, they are hints of a reality that operates in more dimensions than the human eye can register, exactly like our three-dimensional world would look to a two-dimensional being trying to explain the pencil. This is not a claim that the Quran predicted string theory, that framing is weak, and every physicist rolls their eyes at it. The stronger claim, the honest one, is that Islamic descriptions of unseen beings and their relationship to the physical world have always been geometrically consistent with a higher dimensional framework, and modern physics is discovering that higher dimensional frameworks may actually describe reality. The tradition never had the math, it had the language, bowls, reaches, simultaneity, all of it describing the same underlying shape, which brings the whole conversation back to you, because the point of understanding this is not to win arguments online. The point is to see how close the unseen world actually is. The angel of death is not far, he is not travelling, he is not delayed. From the geometry, Islam has always implied, and physics is finally opening the door to he is already here, and already at every deathbed on the planet, and already at yours, one day at a time, only Allah knows. The Quran in Surah Qaf, verse 16, says Allah is closer to you than your jugular vein. That is not poetic exaggeration, that is geometric. From a higher dimensional perspective, the inside of your throat is as accessible as the top of your skin. Nothing is hidden, nothing is far. Every point of view is exposed at once to the one who designed it, which means every prayer you whisper at 3 in the morning is not going anywhere to be heard. It is already heard. Every regret you carry is not sinking into a corner Allah has to search. It is already surfaced, already known, already seen from the vantage point that contains all vantage points. The higher dimensions in your physics textbook and the closeness of Allah in your Quran are describing the same reality. One from the outside, one from the inside. That is not a scientific proof of Islam. It is something more useful. It is a reminder that when the tradition sounds impossible, it usually sounds impossible from too small a frame. Step into a bigger geometry, and the impossibility disappears. The angel of death is not defying space-time. He is operating outside it, and so is the one who sent him. I'm your Islamic friend. Assalamu alaikum.